All right. Test, test,
Test.
test, test.
And another huge pop culture figure, news figure, passed away recently. 93 years of age. The great Barbara Walters passed away. So definitely a pioneer for women on television, women in news,
women in general.
Women in general. Sure, absolutely. Definitely became known as it made a huge name for herself as a very famous interviewer. I mean, to a point where she was, before Oprah, and Oprah did give her nice credit recently when she passed away, that without Barbara Walters, there would be no her and a lot of other women on television. So at the time, if you were interviewed by Barbara Walters, you had reached a pinnacle of fame in whatever you were doing, whether you're a politician or an actor or whatever it was. It was a very big deal to be interviewed by Barbara Walters. Certainly later years, she went on the daytime show The View, was on that for a few seasons, and then retired from there. And so I'm sure I've watched some of her interviews, specials over time. I don't know if anyone necessarily jumps out at me in particular, because it was, maybe a little bit before my time watching her interviews.
What do you mean before your time?
Well,
one of her biggest one was Monica Lewinsky.
I know.
Especially like on Oscar nights. Before the Oscars, she would interview all like the leading, the actors that are involved, nominated and whatnot.
Fair enough. I mean, before my time, before I was really taking more of an interest in something like that and watching it necessarily.
You too busy out there chasing tail.
Yeah. Things to do, man. Things to do.
I get it.
No, but definitely,
I never got any tail, so it was strictly all Barbara Walters all the time.
All about them shoulder pads, baby. I'm here for the shoulder pads.
Barbara Walters and MASH reruns for Dean.
Right.
That was it.
And a bottle of lotion, that's a hell of a Saturday night.
There you go. That's right. That's right. Anyway, so any thoughts on Barbara Walters? Dean, you've already mentioned a little bit here. Obviously you mentioned Monica Lewinsky. Did any other interviews that she did stand out? Or go ahead.
She's done every. She would do every president, like candidates and stuff. Like, I mean,
Monica or Barbara?
No, Barbara.
Okay.
There wasn't a celebrity out there in the 1980s and 90s that she didn't have a sit-down, in-depth interview for. I mean, she was one of the most famous things that she was known for was asking such good questions that she would have her subjects would cry on air. And all of them would say the same thing. Damn it, I wasn't going to do this. I can't believe you got me. She was that good. And she came up in an industry, which is the news industry, especially coming in this 50s, 60s, and 70s, was so male dominated, so chauvinistic, so Mad Men type shit. She had to fight and claw, and she was so good. She made it look easy, and I know it wasn't. I know she had, at every turn, blockades of human trash, and she overcame it, and she became an icon, and she will always be remembered as such.
Yeah, agree. You're right. The commentary and the way she was just ridiculously hard at times, I'm sure, which she had to listen and put up with, I'm quite certain. So, but the fact she hung in there and made a name for herself, and again, like we said here, she surpassed
all those cocksuckers.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. Nick, I know she was definitely when she was at her prominence, you were just a very young lad.
You were still dribbling down your dad's leg.
That's right. Yeah. I honestly, so like, can we stop for a moment and just admire like what you had said earlier is such a testament to like how many people, typically when you're an interviewer, you get the big star, you get the big celebrity, and that's a big get for you. That is very important for you. And for her, like you said earlier, it was the other way around. You weren't
right.
I mean, if you required Barbara Walters' time a day, that meant something about who you were as a celebrity, which is pretty incredible. Like that's just phenomenal. So just hats off to her. Like you said, all the stuff that Dean said, I echo as well. For me, like you said, I was very young. My main introduction or how as a youngster I knew Barbara Walters was Sherry O'Terry's rendition of her on Saturday Night Live.
Just thinking
and
that, yeah.
Sherry O'Terry actually posted a very nice thing when Barbara Walters passed, on Instagram, pictures of her dressed up as Barbara with Barbara and all the stuff. And, she had this like glossy, thing over the frame of the camera where, when she'd do her interviews. And, Barbara Walters was a good sport about everything. And there was a documentary. I mean, it's probably been close to 10 years ago. There was one that I saw that just basically followed her life, her upbringing and things like that. And, she had this. There was this thing, she couldn't pronounce her R's very well. And, when people would imitate Barbara Walters, I'm Barbara Walters, and this is, and this is 2020, like she had this thing. And, they talked about that and how she struggled with her speech and things like that and worked on that, but it kind of became a little bit of a signature for her. And like, just, you can use all the cliches, what a trailblazer, but just seriously, like, what a fucking boss ass bitch. She just took everything. It didn't matter what was in her way or what time she was coming up or what obstacles she had in front of her. She just broke down all the barriers and she was a fucking powerhouse. Like there's just no two ways about it. And so rest in peace to Barbara Walters. She was just incredible.
That it definitely let you know what level of celebrity you were at. You know what I mean? Your publicist calls and goes, "Hey, you have an interview coming up." And in your mind, you're like, "Shit, Barbara Walters, I'm doing the interview." And he goes, "Sorry, nope, Hugh Downs." Ah, shit. All right.
No, all fine tributes here, guys. So yeah, I definitely leaves behind a very powerful legacy. Well, in the spirit of the late great Barbara Walters, so Dean came up with a good Ask an Idiot topic. Matter of fact, we were talking about it at the brewery last evening with Ashley and was it Joey, the other bartender?
Yep, Joey.
Yeah. It was actually a very good conversation. So, you want to describe what the Ask an Idiot is? Dean?
First, I'd like to say it reminded me as we were talking about the four of us sitting around at the bar talking about it. It reminded me of like where this podcast started. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I'm thinking that's what this was, mentally
you and
came
Brian
up from.
Talking about things without me?
Oh yeah, because you won't come out unless
I was never told, but I was never told.
Yeah, that would have made the difference.
That's fine.
Sure. You got a better chance of having Brian come out for New Year's Eve. Anyways, the point of this is you get to interview. I mean, I'm going to go with one, but we're going to end up doing, having three choices. But you get to pick one person in history, alive or dead, real, alive or dead, and you get to interview them for an hour, prime time. Everybody's watching. And the criteria, I think we agreed that they're not going to be. They're going to be more truthful than they like. If it's a politician, they're not going to give you like, "I love America and America's great for us." You know what I mean? But they're not going to be like 100% like tell you the secrets of their life. Did you fuck Marilyn Monroe? Well, that's none of your business. You know what I mean? Like so.
Right. It's not truth serum.
Right, but they are going to be more truthful than their public persona. and they're going to, if they're dead, they know they're dead. They know how they died, but like John F. Kennedy isn't going to be able to tell you who did it. He was in a car. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not stuff like that. So you get one person. Again, we're gonna pick three. That you alive or dead. Who do you interview for an hour prime time, Nick? The floor is yours. You have the prime special. The world is watching. Who are you interviewing?
Well, for me,
you can do three choices.
Okay. One for me, and this kind of ties into what we were talking about with Stan Lee. I would love to interview, and it does tie into what I was saying about RPM Bike Shop, people that I am fascinated by certain people and the path that they have made. I'm a big fan of Spawn. I'm a big fan of Venom, who this gentleman co-created. It is Todd McFarlane. He also worked with Stan Lee very closely when he was working on The Amazing Spider-Man and was employed by Marvel. He's worked for Marvel. He's worked for DC. He started his own comic company, and he's branched out beyond just comics. As far as, his figures literally hang all over my wall as a young kid, transitioning from a young little kid playing with toys into, I'm too old to play with action figures, but I sure like the way they look. And he was creating these detailed, super intricate, lifelike figures that to this day, like I said, I'm looking at them right now. They hang on my wall in the box. They're lovely display pieces. Just so many things, and in media, and he's got his hands in everything Spawn related, which is a very popular character that he created over 30 years ago now, I believe. So Todd McFarlane would be a big one, and I think on a personal level for me, I just think his life's so damn cool. Like, I would just love to interview him and understand someone like his train of thought as to how. I guess I'm such an inside the box thinker, to meet someone like him who, yes, got into comic books and things like that, and then just forged his own path, and then thought, well, not only am I going to do comics, I'm going to branch out into the toy business, and Spawn's going to have a TV series, and we're going to do a movie, and his hands are in everything. The Spawn movie they're making right now, he's in all the meetings, he's deciding who to cast, he's getting Jamie Foxx. It's just. I don't know. I'm really blown away by how he just kind of, it's like if you were just one of us, or if you might be listening to this podcast, just somebody interested in geeky things or nerd culture, this guy just goes out and whatever he's interested, he's got his hands in it and he makes it a reality. And I just think it's so cool. So Todd McFarlane would be one I would love to sit down for an hour with.
He was on a few months ago. He was on the Jim Norton, Sam Roberts podcast. Well, their Sirius XM show, but they put it on the podcast feed. And dude is fascinating as shit. He would be a good interview, like an in-depth, sit down. So good choice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Dean, what do you got?
My first choice is going to be, I'm going big, go big or go home. This person, I don't even want to justify it as calling him a man, but this person was one of the most unfortunately influential people of the 20th century. In fact, I think he even made Man of the Year for Time Magazine, which I always found odd. But what you could figure out what pure evil does and looks like. Ladies and gentlemen, my hour sit down is going to be with Adolf Hitler.
That's a that's a real good one.
Just to see why, you know what I mean? Like what is the level of dysfunction in a fucking dude's head like that makes you do what you do? Yes, you could go and interview Dahmer or Bundy, King Kong, not Ted. And you're never going to get the, you know what I mean? You're never going to really get the evil out of somebody that you would from Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
I think it would.
We're not celebrating anybody here. It's nothing
not,
like that.
no,
This is just a pure journalism.
Yes.
It would be good for people to understand this person in some way, shape, or form.
As soon as I'm done interviewing, he goes straight back to hell.
Right.
deservedly. This is, this idea is just to get purely educational interview type situation. You know what I mean? Let the world, know and see where. Again, somebody like that's going to try to justify, but it's bullshit, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think it would be fascinating.
And like you said, I mean, it just to in today's context and questions you could ask and things like that you could try to get inside the mind, it would be fascinating because, like you said, we've discussed it before. Typically we're talking about superhero movies or something, but the line that every villain is the hero in their own story. So to try to get inside the mind of you feel like what you're doing is so important and so right, but it's so monstrous to everybody else, or at least everyone who doesn't follow you. You know what I mean? It would. That's an incredible pick because that would really. I mean, yeah, like you said, just from a pure, just trying to understand, trying to get a glimpse inside of the thought process of what would make someone think that way is just wild.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, and it's create awareness as well, just so people can see that. Yeah, the
so
tactics
you don't repeat itself.
Exactly right. So you don't forget.
How do we not let this happen again in another form?
Right. Exactly.
So, Brian, you got your first pick?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting one here. So I had this is another one we talked about last evening here, but there's definitely different picks you can go through. But some of the you think about some of the founding fathers of the nation. So probably would go with, I had Washington or Jefferson. I would say Jefferson here. So just in the sense of I think it would be fascinating to.
He was in Hamilton. I know who that is.
Yes, that's right.
You're an unfortunate human being. You know that.
What? I said I know who he is.
Yes, because of. Anyways, Brian, go ahead.
No, just to understand the mindset and the determination and what the vision was there to talk about that firsthand, what the vision of this nation, what it was intended for them I think it plus for people today to hear it.
Yeah,
would probably
from the horse's mouth.
Exactly, change their mindset in many respects to where, you have all these cockamamie interpretations of the Constitution and what the forefathers thought and all that. Well, this is an opportunity to hear some of the actual intentions firsthand, and maybe some good comes out of it. Because you can't argue with someone who was involved in the creation of the nation. But just to hear
one thing
the
that
stories,
you could do.
Go ahead, please.
One thing you could do is show them a video retrospective of Donald Trump's presidency and say, "Is this what you meant?"
Exactly. Right. Something like that. You're right. And you
He's
know
that.
Fuck
no.
Yeah. Have there's so many things you can have. Let's understand what you meant about bearing arms. Let's understand this. Let's understand that. But but again, just the vision and the determination of the
every citizen be able to cut off bears' arms and
wear them,
wear them as their own.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Right. Yeah, and then you would have the opportunity as well to describe. This is where things are, and what do you think about where we are today? How does this
his response
compare?
Hold on, I'm nauseous.
It would be probably disappointing, and some things I think would be okay, but I think a lot of things would be very disappointing for the forefathers in many respects. But anyway,
it'd be crazy. Like you went through and described all of that to him. Where we're at, and he goes, "That's a lot to take in, Brian." Let's back up for a minute. Who is this Shakira again? Describe her some more, please.
Shakira.
No. Anyways, go ahead.
Your buddy Honest Dave would love. No, that's a different time period. I was gonna say your hips don't lie. So I mean, it's just
No.
Because what was he was later or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So what's this Ben-Lo? Is it J-Lo? Ben? How does this work exactly? The talk tick. What is this?
Talker ticks?
Yeah. So you have people that are doing self-dentistry. What has happened to the intelligent level of this nation exactly?
Ooh, tell me
Yeah.
more about this convincing idiots. That sounds
Sure.
fascinating.
Self-dentistry.
That's
When your
right.
teeth fall out, you don't just leave it and move on. That's weird.
You mean like 4 zillion people record stuff and put it out there and expect people to listen to it? It's I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it. What qualifications and criteria do you have in order to do something like this? Yeah, you probably have a lot of questions for us. You'd probably be very interested to interview
Right.
someone from our time and be like, yeah, I'm gonna head back over
It's
here to
legal
Monticello
for what
in
I
the
did
sky.
with Sally. No. Anyways,
Anyway, yeah, but I think that you can almost name any of the forefathers there, but I think Jefferson would be particularly interesting. So
yeah, I
there you
think
go.
your pick's
That's
so
fine.
good. That's actually I have to change mine because he was on my list.
Okay, well there you have it.
So
So
Yeah.
there was why Jefferson though? Because there's a bunch of them, right? So why did you both pick Jefferson?
he wrote the Constitution. He was the secret head writer of the Constitution.
Okay.
He had like the whole fucking ball of wax. This whole government that we have was essentially his brainchild.
Okay.
If you ever want some fascinating reading, he wrote. He rewrote the Bible. Like he would read it over and over, and then write like his version comparative to what he read and what he knows. Yeah, I mean, he had so many. I mean, talking about like a prolific thinker. I mean, he is just one of the most fascinating. He is the most fascinating founding father, hands down. So that's
Okay.
why he was on my list.
Okay.
There you go. Nick,
Interesting.
who else do you have?
This one is a little more. Well, that was my last one was pop culture related as well, but this one specifically. So, as a long-standing big fan of the television show Saturday Night Live, I would love to sit down with Lorne Michaels for an hour.
Ooh.
And the reason being, what I find so interesting and impressive about Saturday Night Live is that, I don't know if I mentioned this on last week's episode, but we recently found on Peacock there's a 24/7 Saturday Night Live channel where it just it plays just sketches to whatever, just some are from the 70s and the 60s, some are from a couple years ago, some are from the 90s, and it's sketches constantly on this SNL channel, and there's no at random. So as I'm watching this, and I look back to things that, because I think we can all agree, we've already touched on this in past episodes with Airplane to different levels and what we find funny. Comedy is changing. Comedy has changed. What is funny now is not what was funny in the 90s or the 80s or the 70s. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's a decisive decade, marker in the sand there, but comedy has changed. Things that are funny are subjective, and things that I think what we've discovered and things that we've talked about and what we all find funny and in different ways, things that either you saw when they were out and have carried with you remain funny, or things like that. But I watch sketches from like one will come on from the 70s and you're like, I get what they're doing, I get what the joke is, but like what, and Robin and I are sitting and she's like, this isn't funny, and I'm like, I know, it's not on, it doesn't make you laugh hysterically like you would at something now that really hits home.
Right.
But to them then, that was really funny. And one of my biggest things to try to wrap my head around is like, this is a guy who started it, was there from the inception, and this was his brainchild, and this is his thing, and he's still there, and he's been there all this time. So I would love to know like how he doesn't become outdated. The things that certainly different writers, right? There's different, he's not writing every sketch, and he's not, but like,
He has the be all end all of what sketches go on.
Yeah, he has the creative, he's got the thumb on the button.
Season, he's been there for it all.
Yeah, and I would love to just kind of, you see him in things every once in a while. He's on as a little the host is making their appearance for that week and giving their monologue. They might pan to him, or he might be in something.
A good idea.
You know what I mean? But yeah, he's got this very monotone way about him, and he seems very. It's funny because
He's
as a
very
guy
Canadian.
who's run a comedy show for all these years, he doesn't come across as somebody super lively or boisterous or funny, and it's very. That in itself is funny to me. I would love to talk to him. I'd love to try to understand how he stays current, how the things that how his comedy has changed, and I would just love to simply ask him that question and just be like, why, you as someone who's watched this from its very inception all the way through all these years and grown with it and evolved, what do you see? Why is it? Why do I see a sketch from the 70s and not think it's funny? Why do or I get the joke, but it's not going to make me laugh like people find hysterical back then, and so on and so forth. So I don't know, just something like that.
People
It's just
back then
intricate.
were laughing hysterically.
Right. Yeah, but and somebody who watched it back then is they're like, oh, I remember this is so good, it's hilarious. So they're like, you got and you watch it and you're like, okay, yeah, like okay, I get the joke, but it's and they're in tears because it's just so hilarious. And there's certain sketches that I watch that still I'm rolling. I know exactly what's coming. I know what the joke is. I know everything. I could recite it as it's happening, and it still makes me crack up. So, I think it would be interesting just from a comedic standpoint to like try to understand the way that comedy has evolved, the way that comedy changes, and why we think what's funny is funny, and why the things that we don't find funny aren't funny. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dennis, who are you going to interview next?
I am going with an inventor who changed our lives for the better. I'll just say it right there, because if you are understanding of that, you see light bulbs and is on right now, and you have electricity to your house. Nikola Tesla was somewhere behind that. The man, I mean, some of the stuff he's invented that wasn't even like actually put into use until after his death is incredible. I mean, the man's brain, I mean, it's probably maybe not on the level as Einstein, but the way it was a different kind of brain. You know what I mean? It was a different thought process. What he was able to, I mean, shit, we wouldn't have microwaves and we wouldn't have remote controls. Definitely remote controls. He invented that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even to like the some of the stuff that, not even just like to find out what he was doing that he didn't tell you. I know you said we're not going to get secrets, but like when he died poor and penniless in an apartment in New York City. And within hours of it, within like an hour of the body being taken out, the U.S. government was in there raiding his house, stealing all his files. And nobody knows what those files were, what they said, but they took them very quickly for some reason. You know what I mean? Like, what did he know? What did he invent? What was he close to, inventing? Shit, he claimed that he talked to aliens, that he created a device that in the evenings, on occasions, he was able to talk and contact with extraterrestrials. I mean, and the dude wasn't crazy, obviously. I mean, it's just, I mean, yeah, talking about fascinating. Nikola Tesla would be an amazing interview.
Very good.
Brian?
I'll go with another. I had Einstein as a possibility as well. I just think talking to a brilliant mind would be fascinating. But I'm going to go with.
Look no further, fella. You found him.
Of course.
Come on.
Well, someone I can't talk to on a regular basis. How about that?
Okay.
If you're talking
Would you like me to start ignoring your calls? Make you feel better?
You already ignore his text, so what would be the difference?
Sure. That's right. I'm going to go with Lincoln. So I think that's just another.
He was a president also.
Yes.
He was a president also.
Yes.
You're getting good at this, Nick.
I'm good at this. He's on
but it's just, you've read things about him to where he really struggled for many years, and he tried to make a name for himself in politics, and he continuously lost. And just the sheer, just in this alone, just the sheer determination and perseverance to eventually become the president of the United States, it just is really an interesting story in itself. Just to talk to a person who clearly in his mind believed that I'm going to make a name for myself in politics. This just would be an interesting conversation in itself, let alone his ideals. And heck, you certainly talk about, gosh, you get into so much with Lincoln, with the Civil War tribulations and the strategy, and then obviously the end of slavery, and the whole mindset around that. Just really fascinating, most fascinating Americans that's ever lived, and it's ever going to live.
One of the most important questions you can ask him, Brian, is, what do you think of the play before?
The play before
he got shot.
What
did he think of it?
That's
How
right.
was it going?
Right. Yep. Yep. And also,
Nick, he was shot in a theater while he was watching a play.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
These kids these days, I tell you.
And it's like, did you know, Mr. Lincoln, they actually made a story in a movie about you as a vampire hunter? Now, what do you think about that?
I just watched that. I don't know. Did I review that for you guys?
That's right.
I love
Holy
it.
shit! I watched that movie. Like a month ago.
I love that movie. It's fun.
That is something else.
Yeah.
That is something else. Yeah.
I have the book as well. Read the book. The book was very good. It was actually his memoir or something, and they put the vampire stuff into the book. Is incredible. It's a whole different vibe. Read the book.
Okay.
The movie was fun in itself. It was definitely absurd and over the top. The book was just awesome. Go check that out.
Gotcha.
Anyway, I just think it'd be a great interview. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Nick.
Okay.
Third and final.
For third and final, I feel the pressure. You guys have been going with great American historical figures. I've gone with all Canadians so far. So I'm going to put an American on my list right now. Definitely, certainly very influential. I don't know if they quite stack up to presidents of the past. I don't know. But for me, this is an easy one because honestly, if I could just get in a room and interview this person for an hour, I could probably just die happy and probably erect. Hillary Duff. I would like to interview Hillary Duff for an hour. I don't care if we talk about avocado toast or banana bread or whatever. I don't give a shit. If I could be in a room and speak to her, oh my God. Like that would be, that's definitely, I have to take one of my 3 interview wishes for Hillary Duff. For
Is the first 5 minutes you doing this? Oh,
my palms are so sweaty. Can
you tell?
Yeah, my palms are getting sweaty just thinking about it.
Can you smile?
Oh my God!
Oh my God! So crazy.
Oh my God! So yes, there it is. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yep.
Be like that Chris Farley. One of my favorite skits Chris Farley ever did was he did the interview on the show. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Paul McCartney.
Like,
the average guy interviewing a famous person. I just love.
Do you remember that time when you were in the Beatles? Yeah, that was awesome.
Well, yes.
So awesome. So awesome. Awesome.
That might be our interviews with. Remember when you ended slavery, Mr. Lincoln? Well, yes.
That's awesome.
That was so cool.
That was so awesome. Holy shit, man.
You're neat.
All right, Dean, your third one, sir.
My third one. I mean, this is a very difficult choice.
Yes,
because I mean, look, you have from the beginning of time, from Adam and Eve to Barry Manilow. I mean, the list is so large.
Barry Manilow would be a great interview. I think.
It would be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this gentleman, I do it because he should be on a list. I mean, the respect that this man deserves. It's criminal that you two didn't put him on the list because
Kenny Rogers, isn't it?
because he is a gentleman and a scholar, and he deserves love. And because you two didn't give it to him, I'm going Austin Matthews. Is third on my list because he deserves
Fantastic choice.
respect that you two heathens wouldn't give him. And he's so good that I don't even need to explain why he's on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
But since Nick doesn't care that much about him, somebody has to. Good job, Nick.
Can I pet your mustache?
You talking to me or
It's Austin. No, it's Austin. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so my third one is more of an entertaining figure.
If it's Turbo Man, I'm going to shit my pants.
No,
You guys, you're the best pick.
Well, I had a couple names here. I had I did have Stan Lee on my list as a consideration because again, it's all the things we talked about earlier when we honored his memory. But there's a lot of stuff about him out there already. I think it'd be a great interview. I don't know, just one for me personally. I think it'd be very interesting. Would Rod Serling.
Okay.
So Rod Serling is the creator of the original Twilight Zone series, which was my favorite television ever. I mean, I have tattoos on my of the Twilight Zone. I just love it so much. And I reading about him a little bit today, I did not realize that maybe I did at some point or another, but he died at 50 years old. 50 years old, very young man.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. And to put that much creativity out there with the Twilight Zone series that he did, he co-wrote the original Planet of the Apes script, which is just phenomenal and one of the best endings of any movie that you're going to see, in my opinion. He did Night Gallery, which was a Twilight Zone type of series in the early 70s. But just people that are creative like that, I think it's just a fascinating conversation. So
absolutely,
I want to know everything. How did the idea start for the Twilight Zone? How did you get it on the air? What are some of the messages that you wanted to make sure were portrayed? What are some of the, what are some of your particularly favorite episodes? There's so many questions there as far as, what did you want people to take away from some of these? Because a lot of those, including the Planet of the Apes, there's a lot more. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of meaning behind some of that stuff here with, like you say, political stuff and racism.
The episode about the Vietnam War they did was like so before its time. I'm surprised it made air.
Sure.
Back then, yeah. I mean that guy. I mean what he was able to accomplish was ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then you could talk with him about what some of the current shows that are out there. What does he think about what's happening today?
I'm making him binge watch the whole first season of Martin and see what he thinks.
He's like, I'm going back in the box and go back in the other world. Anyway, I think it'd be a great interview. The great Rod Serling. How about that?
Nice,
good pick.
Yes, yeah. Is that 3 each, guys?
That's 3 each.
I got my 3.
Yeah, great pick. And if you're listening or watching us out there, just let us know. Did we get who would you? Same question. Who would you interview?
We're available.
Anybody?
If we're on your list,
right.
we'll interview. We'll take that interview.
You don't have to, gentlemen. You guys don't have to give a reasoning, but do you guys have an honorable mention off the top of your head?
I initially had thought. Well, I'm under the. So I could bring somebody back from the dead, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is going to be super morbid and potentially disturbing, but I am fascinated by the West Memphis 3 story, that whole thing. If you guys are familiar, in the 90s, the 3 high school kids that got pinned for murder for the 3 young boys that were mutilated and left for dead, they were dead. I want to interview one of those kids because it will, my hope is that someday when I die, whatever happens after here is that whatever embodiment that my spirit takes, that somehow I'm just all-knowing. I know all things. I understand space and aliens and whatever, and I want to know what the fuck happened. I want to know who killed those kids, because it wasn't those kids that they pinned it on, and I don't think it was the family members. I want to know who was involved and why. I want to try to understand. So even though the little kids, unfortunately, couldn't, I think they were like, I don't know, 9, 10, something like that.
Yeah.
Even though they couldn't tell me what happened, one of them could at least tell me some specifics about who killed them, because it drives me nuts. I find it so fascinating and horrifying. But that story has always fascinated me. There's multiple documentaries on HBO and different parts, and a movie's been made about it with Reese Witherspoon and so on and so forth. It's just, I find that story so fascinating that it really, really
I prefer
bothers
Reese
me.
without her spoon, but that's just me.
Well, sure. Yeah, right. With their fork.
Brian, do you have a honorable mention?
Well, it's a couple that I mentioned. Just Washington. Again, he
Sure.
was next to my. Just the pressures and the honor of being the first president of the country.
Oh, not Kerry Washington.
Yeah, no.
Not.
Yeah, I think it'd be. I think his and the people thought he should be a king, and he's like, no, this is not what this is all about. I think it'd also be good for people to listen to that commentary again from the man himself. And then, as I mentioned already, Stan Lee, and then Einstein, I think would be fascinating as well. Just to
It would be
to talk to a brilliant mind, and just how a shy kid became what he became, and how he tolerated. It's just amazing. Just how a mind like that thinks.
Absolutely.
To ask would be a fascinating interview. How about you, Dean?
I got two. One is Winston Churchill.
Sure.
Just everything
Okay.
he went through. It's kind of, you could probably go 1, 2, or 1A, 1B with him and Roosevelt. But
Okay.
both would be fascinating about, because World War II is such a turbulent time for, the access, America and England and English becoming so close to defeat. But I mean, Winston Churchill really he damn near held the world together along with, Roosevelt. So that would be fascinating and just such a great orator. He would be a really good interview. And my other one is Genghis Khan. So Genghis Khan, people, they say that the majority of, there's a ridiculous amount of people can be traced back to his lineage because he fucked so much. And I just think it would be fascinating to ask him about, that fucking. So Genghis Khan.
All right. Yep. Okay. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a block in Kenmore that I may or may not have helped start just from the 90s.
There we go.
Yeah, but it just can't even compare to someone like a Genghis Khan, it sounds like.
You would, if I didn't talk to you every week, you would be my honorable mention because, I think national broadcast, I think you'd plug the shit out of this podcast.
You're on a more Ric Flair level probably than the Genghis Khan, but still.
That's right. That's right. You may not watch it, but you're going to see an ad for it on fucking TikTok and Twitter. And,
that's right.
Etc. So, yeah. No, good conversation. That's very good. Like you said, it harkens back to the bar conversations and stuff that motivated all of us to start this podcast to begin with. So, yeah, very good stuff.
Hi, this is Millennial Nick, along with Gen X Brian and Zennial Dean. Hey, if you liked that video, which we really hope you did, you should like and subscribe. That would be great.
Weird.
Yep.
What?
City
you look weird?
No, the shot, because I don't like the curtain.